to Two Babies in a Business, a podcast about business, marketing, growth strategy, staff, clients, babies, and marriage. I'm Christina. This is Peter. We're founders and leaders of CIPR Communications.
You struggled with that one a little bit today.
I was trying to do it without looking because I full disclosure have this written down over here. And you'd think, because we're on episode, I feel like 20. I think this is maybe episode 20. So you think after 20 times of saying it, but not yet. Maybe 40.
So what's on the agenda today, on the menu?
Well, on the menu is marketing campaigns. So we're still in our series about building your marketing strategy, and we've talked about value propositions and goals and target personas. We chatted a little bit about our thoughts on digital versus traditional in the last episode. And so I thought this time, before we get into tactics, there's something a little, campaigny, concept-y something that comes before actually drilling down into tactics. So I thought, hey, marketing campaigns is actually something that needs to be in a strategy that we should try to unpack.
Mm-hmm. You used to have a job title called campaigns manager. I feel like that was a pretty unique job title. You're way ahead of your time.
I did have a job title, campaigns manager. I feel like often people think of campaigns as political campaigns. That marketing campaigns are actually really important things because I think that they put a beginning and an end on something. Right. And I think that we've talked about this a lot internally about the importance of things being able to be measured and the importance of being able to set benchmarks and understanding the behaviors of your target audiences. And I think when you have some really smart concepts around marketing campaigns that have some goals that deliver on your business goals, it allows you to test certain tactics, perfect certain tactics, but also really hone in on the messaging that a target audience would really like. And yeah, I guess in my position as campaigns manager once upon a time, it was all about building campaigns that spoke to certain target audiences from a marketing and largely from a stakeholder relations perspective.
So I'm curious then, in your experience, since you've had such a special title that not many people in the world.
Oh boy.
One of the things we talk about in our business right now and the way we're actually reframing a lot of kind of how we approach customers is around sort of first you build your foundation. So that means your website, your digital strategy, all that kind of stuff, your strategy really. And then you start to build out some tactics, if you will. And then you basically kind of in the first few months sort of do a couple, I guess, campaigns for lack of better terms, and then sort of see what works best and A/B test through that sort of building phase, if you will. And then once you kind of find, or once we kind of get to a place where we've really found the campaigns that are working really well, then that's when really it's time to scale up and to really start to double down on some of those things working. Is that sort of, I guess, in your experience, where campaigns fit or how they would fit into kind of your overall marketing approach?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, and so shameless self-promotion of CIPR, but this is really our differentiator because I do think, and I've worked with a number of agencies in the past, many of which are awesome, and I don't knock them at all, but they do have this cookie cutter approach to a campaign, right? Okay, marketing campaign, and here's the goal, and here's the tactics, and go, and we start with creative, and okay, everyone's agreed. And I think when we approach certain things, and because we start with those business goals and a strategy, there's campaigns that come to life that are, I think, exactly what you've said, that kind of notion of A/B testing things and, okay, a particular concept in a particular time. I think about Steve from Last Frontier Heliskiing, who's had an amazing campaign around discounted skiing during COVID for Canadians. And it's like, that to me is a campaign, and it had multiple different tactics, from social to, PPC to public relations. And then I think about other pieces, and those campaigns almost become a longer term game. So if it's a brand recognition, I think about our friends at Métis Crossing, amazing destination. They offer so many different things and programs and this and that. And unfortunately, COVID has kind of taken a lot of those pre-planned campaigns away because things have changed so much or had to be postponed. But there's still this kind of overarching need for a brand recognition campaign because they are brand new in a way, and their offerings are brand new. So, like, kind of a roundabout way of saying it depends.
Yeah.
But I think, we try to, or at least I try to, approach clients in those two different ways. Okay, is this something long term and a longer campaign we're going to build on, or are there 3 different campaigns this year to do with programming or a promotion? Or
Yeah, and I like to, I guess, the way one of the other things that CIPR does that's quite different, I think, from a lot of other agencies, is when we develop a strategy, we also create a tactical plan, a month by month, tactic by tactic plan. And sometimes that is themed, right? So you might have a theme for a quarter, 3 months in a row, where it's like, hey, you're a brand new business. Let's take a quarter to introduce your business. And that might be a campaign, right? And then once you're done that sort of first 3 months of introducing your business, it might be now, okay, let's talk about your unique selling proposition or your whatever, right? And it's about sort of rolling your marketing out in a way that's not just like sort of like one big marketing blah, but putting it more into some kind of like either month by month or quarter by quarter, or to your point, maybe campaign by campaign or audience by audience type approach, where you might do something for a period of time and then switch. And then there's some things that sort of go over multiple periods of time and sort of are long term. Is that sort of
yeah, and I think with some businesses, the campaigns become obvious. So I'm going to throw another past client out there, Melius Energy, that we did public relations for. And it was very obvious what the campaigns were. There was education, and we spent 3 months educating. There was awareness, and so that was introducing kind of a product or a solution. And then there was this kind of engage, excite phase or campaign that was all about attention, awareness, driving potential investment. It was very obvious. Okay, new product, B2B business, and understanding that there were 3 distinct campaigns actually helped us dictate what those tactics could be. I think in other businesses and different industries, the campaigns become less obvious. And I think specifically kind of like in a B2B space where, you're not necessarily running campaigns around major times of shopping or kind of seasonal milestones, but you're trying to sell. And what are those campaigns? And maybe in those respects, your campaigns are not promotional. Maybe, like I said before, they're brand awareness, but maybe they're campaigns that start to target a specific audience. I'm thinking of a not-for-profit that we recently finished an engagement with on the communication side, but I still think kind of closely tied to marketing. And one of their goals was to kind of create champions, so almost members, and almost create a membership model so that people could be a part of this nonprofit in a new way. And that really was a campaign, right? So, okay, you want to create these, it's part of your business goal. Well, you're going to need a marketing campaign around this. And what does that look like? Yeah,
no, for sure. And I think you can also structure your campaigns around your marketing funnel as well, or your sales funnel, right? Or your buyer's journey, right? So, I think about Mobile Escape, and we've just gone through a bit of a strategy with them, and I think it became clear that it's like you have a lot of great end of funnel content, but you don't have sort of top of funnel content. You don't have kind of any kind of awareness content. You don't have any right? So it sort of became, okay, we need to spend some time up here earlier in the buying cycle, kind of doing more awareness and education so that people understand kind of what the solution that they're providing is, as opposed to just sort of saying, here, buy the solution, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely many ways to think about campaigns. And I think obviously starting with a strategy and a blueprint and all of that kind of stuff helps to flesh some of that out.
Yeah. And campaigns are sometimes these like big, hairy ideas. And that's okay. I feel like when you're having a campaign conversation, it's like bring your visionary, bring your Enneagram 7 into the room, because there's cool ideas that come out of it, right? Like, what if we could, excite people around this or this big contest, or, right? Like, there are all those things that come out of it. And then you start drilling down the tactics. So, campaigns is really a chance that I tell clients is your chance to dream. Like, what does this look like? Sitting down with a client around a grand opening, and it was like, what's the dream? Who do you want at this thing? What's
Right.
it going to be like? Okay, we need a whole campaign around getting people there,
Right.
and understanding it. Okay, so now that we've dreamed big, what are all those tactics? And I think the important part of that campaign too, and why I think like a 7 or a visionary is important in that conversation, is like that's when you're coming up with this like creative concept, right? Like, so what's the imagery that goes along with this? What's the tagline? What's the thing that is going to start to captivate people? What colors are we using? So all those things drip into the tactics, but so important to flesh it out at the big overarching level and then apply it, as opposed to going, okay, what's this little Facebook thing? That's where
Right.
you start to get disjointed, right?
Right. As opposed to like the calls I get sometimes, like, I think my uncle told me I need to be on Facebook. It's like, maybe, but what, for what? And what are your campaigns and how are you going to grow your Facebook page and all, et cetera, right?
Yeah. And I think about like, think about those great campaigns that you've seen in market that hit you everywhere. I'm going to use Noom as an example. We won't be Noom evangelists, but it's an app that I openly use. Um, Peter does openly use
I
it
also
too.
use it. Yeah.
um,
More openly than you.
Complete side note, on the marriage side, Peter was telling everyone I use this, and I recently told him, stop telling everyone my story. So now I'm just going to tell everyone on the podcast.
Now it's easy.
Anyways, obviously they had a campaign that was targeting my persona. I heard advertisements for it on the podcasts that I listened to. I saw television commercials for it. I saw social media ads. I saw, right, like it was everywhere. It was so pervasive in my life. And so that campaign hit me probably 6 or 7 times, and I made a purchase.
Right.
The messaging was the same, the colors were the same, the creative was the same, so it just kept hitting me. So to me, that's a great example of this like campaign concept coming to life. So it's like,
Yeah.
I imagine the Noom executives sitting in a room thinking through what are the things that are going to target a Christina persona, and they've talked about messaging and the creative that would appeal. And then the marketing team goes off and goes, okay, we know her persona likes Instagram and the CTV news and this, and then they go from there. So it's an example to
Nice.
kind of pick from.
Marketing campaigns. Don't leave home without them.
Exactly. All right, we get to dive into tactics next.